Coming up on Roots TV, it's a rising problem on college campuses, prescription drug abuse. Students talk to us exclusively about where they get it and why they can't stop.
And a shocking discovery, sex traffickers are targeting Oklahoma, and they're going after our most vulnerable children.
Are college sports becoming deadly mind games? How OU hockey is taking on a dangerous disorder.
And it's hooking up, internet style. Why 20-somethings are looking for love online and all the web places. Next on Roots TV.
Hi, I'm Cortessa Adams, and this is Roots TV. So today we're going to talk about a number of topics important to the state of Oklahoma.
We're going to go ahead and begin with prescription drug abuse. Now, Emily, you were able to get exclusive interviews with 2 students who openly admit to abusing prescription drugs that they weren't prescribed.
That's right. It's becoming a growing problem on campuses across the nation, just using prescription drugs. Reports say 1 in 4 students use prescription drugs illegally.
And why are they taking them?
They say it helps them focus. As athletes take steroids to enhance their performance, students are taking Adderall to enhance their performance in school. The people I have talked to and interviewed asked to disguise their faces so they could openly talk to us about the problems.
When I have to study, even if it's like a small project, I'm like, oh, I need an Adderall before I can study. But if I have tests, I'll take it 3-4 days in a row. I mean, you just text someone if they have it, and then you just go get it from their apartment. It's not like, I don't really see it as a big deal. It's just like, okay, yeah, I have Adderall, I have extra, and I need some money, so I buy it from them, and they get their money, and I get my Adderall. It's not like a big scandal. Well, I don't see it as that. Anywhere from $3 to Vyvanse can be like up to $10 a pill, but I try to keep it on the $4 range. For me, it helps me, and I mean, I've gotten, like, I do well on tests, or I get my homework done when I take it. So yeah, I'm not prescribed, but it does good for me, so I'm okay with taking it, and I don't think I'm hurting myself by taking it. Yeah, I mean, I can study without it, but it's like, if it's available to me, why not get it done easier? It's just a shortcut.
Do you consider yourself addicted?
Yeah. The first time I took it was my sophomore year in high school. Someone just gave it to me and I didn't even know what it was. And I took it and, like, I don't know, I just thought it was really weird. And then I took Ritalin in my junior year of high school, studying for the ACTs. But I didn't really start taking Adderall, like actually looking for it and taking it until college. I don't know if it's because I've been exposed to different things or because of Adderall, but I mean, if someone has a pain pill, I'm like, oh sure, I'll take it. Like, just because I know, like, I like Adderall and I like what it does for me, so I'm more, I don't want to say it's like a gateway drug, but I'm more like open to like trying a different pill. I'm not gonna like go snort cocaine, but I'll take a Vicodin every once in a while, but I'm not gonna like text people and be like, oh, do you have some Vicodin? Like, I'm trying to get that high. Like, you know, it's not like I need it, but if someone has one, I'll take one.
A rising number of athletes have started to take painkillers illegally as well to deal with the pain of the game. When one athlete was prescribed pills, word got out fast.
Just kind of joke about it, you know, half the bottle was gone before I even got it. It's going to be on every campus. I mean, obviously, you know, in a perfect world, nobody's going to be using drugs, but I mean, unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. I mean, I do take Adderall when I need to study for tests and stuff. I just don't think that you're ever going to be able to cut it out completely. I think it's a crime. I mean, people asked me for something, I just gave it to them. Probably if I got caught, it would have been bad, but I didn't get caught.
Drugs like Vyvanse and Ritalin are also used by the students to help them enhance studying and taking tests, doing their homework.
How hard was it to find students that were actually willing to talk to you about their drug abuse?
It surprisingly wasn't hard at all. Like they said, you text somebody and ask them if they have the drugs, and you can just text somebody and ask them if they're using Adderall, Ritalin, or Vyvanse, and they'll probably say yes, most likely.
And what's the risk of taking these drugs illegally?
You can become addicted, and that's a serious problem to have to use these drugs illegally for the rest of your life.
Does OUPD or like the Norman Police Department get involved with the students? Are they aware of this problem? Do they have?
I think most police think that taking precautions is not that big of an issue. There's so many people using prescription drugs illegally that they don't feel it's that big of a concern. So they don't concentrate it on.
I think the only time they
issue.
really get involved would be when there's a tragedy, like maybe a prescription drug overdose, like the Austin Box story that happened a few years back. And then after time passes by, it sort of gets swept under the rug again until we see something else.
Another issue right now in Oklahoma is sex trafficking, correct?
Unfortunately, that is correct. Human sex traffickers are specifically targeting Oklahoma because they think that our children are more vulnerable, especially the children in the foster care system. So right now, Oklahoma is becoming a breeding ground for sex trafficking. The Oklahoma Senate recently passed 2 bills to protect human trafficking victims. The first one allows the authorities to dismiss prostitution charges against minors if they were found to be involved in human sex trafficking. The second allows victims to go back and petition to have earlier prostitution convictions removed from the records. So this sort of humanizes the issue and allows the victims the opportunity to kind of not fall through the cracks and become a statistic, or what society likes to refer to as throwaway children. And it's an important step forward in a complicated issue.
So why are the foster children more at like a higher risk?
Well, I mean, to understand the foster care system, you kind of have to look at the circumstances that brought these children into the system. I mean, a lot of them come from broken homes. They're severely physically abused, sexually abused in some cases. So you have these lost, broken children that are just starving for affection. They're starving, they want to be saved. And that's where these traffickers come in, and they use their powers of manipulation to kind of win them over and promise them a better future, and then eventually exploit them sexually.
By the time I was 15, I met 3 men, and they gave me drugs and told me that I needed to go get $500, sleep with, people, or I couldn't come back.
Oklahoma City. On the surface, a thriving up-and-coming city. One that epitomizes, in many ways, the American dream. But underneath that pristine surface lives a dark and ominous shadow. The world of human sex trafficking.
I was scared to death, and so I complied in the beginning. Had my first pimp not even knowing it when I was 15.
This is Teresa Briscoe, founder of Significant Others Ministries. Teresa is a human sex trafficking survivor who's gone from victim to crusader, reaching out to women being trafficked as street prostitutes in Oklahoma City.
And then I get to talk to them, build a relationship with them, and just coming back and building relationships. And I give them my phone number. They text me and call me, and we talk. And, I'm just waiting and praying for the day that they say, come and get me. And I've rescued several from Oklahoma City. These girls have dreams and aspirations when they were kids, just like everybody else. And their circumstances took them to that level. And they can't get out.
Oklahoma has rapidly become one of the top locations for human sex traffickers to recruit young women.
Oklahoma is such a hot spot, in my opinion, because of the vulnerability.
Susie Hansen is a full-time volunteer with the Oath Coalition, or Oklahomans Against Trafficking Humans.
When you look at the rankings of Oklahoma in areas like child abuse, teenage pregnancy, teenage homelessness, we're in the top rankings for all of these things.
Human sex trafficking is modern-day slavery. Historically, human slavery has always relied heavily on port cities and trade routes. Oklahoma's location has made it a prime destination for human sex trafficking.
Oklahoma is known as the crossroads of the nation. We have 3 major interstates that run right through our state, and we sit right between all these other major cities. So our geographic location makes us vulnerable.
Oklahoma City has a really bad problem here. And no place for the girls to go, and no one out there on the streets, to give them another option to help them.
It's estimated that 2 million children run away from home each year, and research has shown that over 70% of these runaways are lured into sex trafficking rings as a means for survival. The foster care system has produced a frightening number of human sex trafficking victims. Because of their tumultuous pasts, these vulnerable children become prime targets for human traffickers.
The issue with the foster kids is the issue of vulnerability. Traffickers prey on kids who are neglected, abandoned, rejected, they're insecure, they're unhappy with themselves, and they're starving for affection and approval of others. Now, 80% of all kids in the foster care system, I'm not saying will be trafficked, but of those domestic trafficking victims, 80% of them have been in the foster care system. You've got lost, hurt, broken, hurting children here in the state of Oklahoma, and traffickers know this about our state. Oklahoma and Arkansas have become known as the recruitment states for traffickers. They're recruiting our daughters, and then they're taking them to these other major cities.
Human slavery has long been an historical black eye for the United States. But the grim reality is that human slavery in this country is still very much alive today, oftentimes in our own backyards.
I think that when people think of human trafficking, they're thinking of places like Cambodia, Thailand, the red light district. Most people don't think of the United States of America. They don't think of children being sexually exploited. But they also probably don't think of Oklahoma. So modern day slavery today is very much alive and well in the United States of America.
So there hasn't been any news of reform in the foster care system. Is anything being done to help these children?
Well, when it comes to the foster care system, there is the Oklahoma Foster Care Task Force, which I believe they met in March of 2012. And they kind of talk about things like getting more funding to kind of better train their staff so that they can better service the families, which is great, but it's honestly not the only issue that we need to address. I mean, we kind of need to look at the other stuff in Oklahoma where, we're 49th in education. According to the last census, we're 46th in per capita income. We're among the leading states when it comes to child abuse, children who die as a result from child abuse, teenage runaways, teenage pregnancies. There's all these socioeconomic issues that we need to address to kind of help bring this to the forefront.
On to a more controversial topic, even though that was pretty controversial. Also, how many of you guys feel that race is no longer an issue in Oklahoma?
The country was founded on the backs of other people who worked as free labor, and we enjoy the fruits of it. We have a great, we're a prosperous country, but we have to realize that was built on the backs of free labor. And to think that we can ever move to a post-racial society is just, unfortunately, I think is an absurd fantasy.
Well, my co-producer Nick and I looked into this, and we just interviewed a few generations of African Americans and just asked them, what was their take on Oklahoma and what's kind of the atmosphere in Oklahoma on race.
When I came to the university in '67, bigotry and bigots were overt. Individuals yelled out racial epithets and thought nothing of it. Minorities were beaten, physically beaten, and also verbally abused. It was so overt until it was the norm. I had this idea that I was coming to a mythical place. I came to what one could perhaps describe at that time, racial hell.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration of freedom in the history of our nation.
A lot of people say we live in a post-racial society, or, racism doesn't exist, I'm colorblind. Yeah, right. If it did, why is it such a big deal on everything you fill out? What's your race? What's your sex? What's your age?
We peaked perhaps in terms of the gains in the 80s and 90s, and we became complacent. So students who were very active in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s suddenly became more concerned about money, and jobs and income and houses and clothes and other things than they were about human rights and race relations.
Until I was 12 years old, I had no interaction with white people whatsoever. They did not live in our neighborhoods. They did not attend our schools. They did not go to our churches. And we weren't allowed in their neighborhoods for the most part. That changed when they integrated the schools and busing, and that was in 1972. Instead of seeing them as some sort of enemy or something, I began to see them as Robert and Jimmy and Carol. They became more than just race. They became people.
When I first got here from where I grew up in DC, people would tell me, you know, oh, when you get pulled over, turn your lights, turn your car off, turn all your lights on, and just, you know, be prepared for whatever. I finally got pulled over. There's two of them. The other guy comes in on my side, on the passenger side, he's shining his light. And then the other one on the driver's side proceeds to tell my friend to get out. So he gets out the car and they like take him into the woods. I can't see him, you know, I'm looking, like craning my neck to see, and the police officer is shining his light. He's like, keep looking straight ahead.
You know, a lot of people talk about diversity and think, oh, well, it'd be so great if we were just all the same. We don't have to be the same, but we should all be respected.
If you're being oppressed, speak out. If you see others who are being oppressed, speak out. Do something. Say something. Don't remain silent. Don't be a bystander. Oppressed people understand. They already know that it's a hard life, it's a tough life. But somebody has to indeed say no.
I was talking about with Professor Olds, and he mentioned that, you know, he felt as if like white people are trained to ignore race while African Americans are trained to like just accept it and deal with it. And I thought that was very interesting because race was something that until I had heard these stories that, you know, we showed in the package, you know, I really wouldn't have thought that race was as big of an issue as it is.
And it isn't just with African Americans. I mean, it's with Native Americans, Asian Americans. I mean, everyone's having to deal with it.
One of the people we interviewed said, you know, like, you know, we just need to talk about it a little bit more, and we just need to, you know, if we just accept, or if we just think that, you know, oh, it's not going on and we ignore it, then, you know, it's never going to be addressed. So that was one of the big takeaways from the interviews that I got.
What do you think is holding back a national conversation on race?
I think it's just, I mean, I honestly, you know, don't really know a great way to answer that question. I think it's just, you know, people are so uncomfortable with it, and our generation especially, I think, you know, we want to say that, you know, we're not racist, we're not like a racist society generation anymore. It's not necessarily just like, you know, blatant racism, but, you know, regardless, it's still going to be an issue. And so as long as we can continue a dialogue about it, I think it would be fine. But right now, I don't think we're having a dialogue.
Yeah.
Coming up on Roots TV, dealing with roommates from hell. Is domestic violence on the rise in college dorms?
And it's one of America's favorite sports, but is hockey killing its players?
And later, why internet hookups are sweeping college campuses. So does anybody remember coming to college and having to live with somebody else and things didn't always go as planned?
Yep. Well, actually, a lot of people don't know that there can actually be physical violence between the dorm room roommates. And I heard about this problem and I figured I'd dig a little bit deeper and try and figure out what this violent situation was between the roommates.
Down these narrow dorm room halls, most freshmen are on their own for the first time. There's always the thought what the roommate will be like. The last situation a freshman wants to find themselves in is a violent encounter with the person they are living with.
I went into it thinking I was going to have like a lifelong bestie. We were going to be friends just right off the bat. It didn't really work out that way.
Taylor Ashley knows what it's like to have an everyday roommate disagreement escalate into a frightening situation.
She would constantly have people over and I was getting locked out of the room.
After over a month dealing with these issues, her father called the RA to complain about her roommate. He said he witnessed during a Skype call with Taylor inappropriate behavior by her roommate. Then the situation got worse.
She basically went on a rant about how I had snitched on her and told, her business to the RA and things like that. And I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was going to be a regular conversation, but she started getting loud, and her friend that was with her started getting closer to me in my personal space, and things went from there, and it got out of control really fast.
After Taylor and her roommate were separated from fighting, she was given the option to live alone in a dorm.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for sure. So.
Violence between roommates is not as uncommon as you think. A recent poll of college students found that 30% of them had been victims of roommate violence. If it happens, students can be charged with assault and battery by police. However, many cases go unreported.
I think overall with residence halls, the issue is the reporting. I think many individuals choose not to report the violence that takes place.
So what's the cause of the violence? I mean, what kind of issues are these people facing that are actually like escalating to violence?
Well, OU doesn't have any statistics yet on these dorm room violence situations, but it's really just bottled up emotions between the roommates. They don't want to be, a tattletale or a snitch and go tell the RA, and then tensions just get really high between them, and then one day they'll just snap and be at each other's necks, and then it's not a fun situation after that.
When I was doing my prescription drug story, I found that a lot of students entering college now are on medications. Does that cause some of the violence?
I would imagine it would cause some mood swings, definitely, and that really would not help the situation at all.
So what is OU or OUPD doing to address this issue?
Right now, they can't force students to come out and talk to an adult, talk to an RA part of the school to tell their situation with their roommate. They can really only just stress the fact that they're there if they need someone to talk to, but they can't unfortunately, they can't sit every student down one by one and ask every day, is everything okay between your roommate? But that's just how it is right now.
So on the issue of violence, I know one of the things that's hitting the headlines recently is violence in sports, and it's usually surrounding NFL football right now. But what I think people don't realize is that hockey is one of the most violent sports out there right now.
Yeah, I've never been able to be a hockey fan because of that very reason. It's so violent. I can't watch those players get beat up.
And what a lot of people don't know is that these injuries are causing a disease called CTE, and it can be deadly.
Hockey has proven on its own to be the most physically and mentally imposing activity of any other sport, including football. What is the proof? Concussions.
One player didn't tell anybody and everything's fine, and another player didn't tell everybody and he's sitting out. With the player who's sitting out right now, I'm mad at him. I wish he would have told us, because I did ask him if he's okay on the bench and he said, I'm fine.
A concussion is where a player gets a bruise on his or her brain, and it can be from a whiplash-type movement to the head, or the head can move forward or backwards in a quick motion, causing symptoms such as dizziness, nausea, and vomiting.
I had a concussion back then. That's maybe why I wasn't playing up to par. So it's kind of iffy to say which way you'd go, but at the same time, like I said earlier, we want what's best for these players safety-wise, and so angry, I'm not sure if is the right word. It's kind of just, I feel for him and want what's best for him.
Hockey player Corey Ramsey says the way he approaches the game now does change his attitude, but not his love for the game.
The old me would have kept going and tried to please the crowd, but after sitting out for 13 months, I have a different look on everything and a more cautious attitude than I've had before. So if I knew something was going on that wasn't right, I would probably stop.
Hockey players realize that every time they step on the ice, they have to play against two opponents, one of which are concussions. With the crowd looking on, they have to decide to protect themselves or please those who can't see this invisible opponent.
You know, I actually dated somebody on the OU hockey team for 2 years, and I got to experience the action, the violence they have. He actually had concussions, and I was worried about it all the time, that there was probably going to be later problems in his life for all the concussions that he did have.
Next on Roots TV, you think college students would be the last people to look for love online, but more hitting the like button to internet dating.
Making a living by laughing. Meet Okies who think comedy's no joke.
And move over Gangnam Style, Persian rappers are taking over the OK music scene. Isn't it crazy how far dating has come? I mean, back in our grandparents' age, you meet somebody, maybe date them once, end up marrying them, fairy tale,
Yeah.
But I mean, how hard is it now to meet people?
We're so connected now that everybody just uses every outlet.
Would you ever start a relationship with someone that you met on Facebook?
Definitely not.
I think it's creepy.
No. I would at least respond to him, yeah. Start talking to him.
I mean, I don't know. You never say never, I guess, so yeah.
Yeah, I would.
Really, I don't see that it's really that different from meeting someone in person.
Online dating. It's a more common thing than you'd think, especially on college campuses like OU. And of course, the #1 site for online hookups is Facebook, something college students are very familiar with. Its early roots as a hot or not site were depicted on the social network.
Are you okay? We're ranking girls. You mean other students? Yeah.
According to a study from Stanford University, meeting someone online has become the second most common way to connect with a partner, second only to being introduced by a friend. And that's where eFlirt expert Lori Davis comes in, to educate the public about the new age of dating. So why do you think our generation is more drawn to meeting people online than in real life?
So it's our socializer happening online. Of course, part of our social life is dating, so it's going to follow the same trend.
Meeting someone online is especially easy because it's all at our fingertips. With apps on our smartphones, we could stay constantly connected.
Mobile dating is exploding right now. It is, but if you think about it, so are apps. We're just so connected.
For those who are still creeped out by shows like Catfish, Lori has advice for that too.
I mean, I think that people were afraid of going online even before the show or the movie Catfish existed. But the truth is that you just need to be more aware. It doesn't mean that the person you talk to is going to be, a girl when you thought they were a guy. Right. That's not the norm of what happens.
There are far more examples of successful online relationships than of people being catfished. OU student Ryan Boyce is a prime example. Ryan was messaged by a girl that he had no mutual friends with his freshman year.
I was like, who is this girl? I have no idea who she is, and we talked a little bit and pretty immediately met up for the first time outside of Cates Center, and I don't know, then things just kind of slowly progressed until we were in a 3-year-long relationship.
They have since broken up, but Ryan met another girl on Facebook. This time, he pursued her.
You sound like you prefer meeting people through Facebook.
No, I just don't, I'm not biased. I don't separate the two. I don't see as one being easier than the other. I don't hold myself back from meeting people that way because of some preconceived notion that it's wrong or weird or creepy or anything like that.
As Ryan spoke, a song about love played in the background of the coffee shop, echoing the cry of our generation. All we need is love, whether we find it online or off.
Isn't there a degree of danger in meeting people on a flirt app where you don't even know who they are? I mean, this might play into your sex trafficking a little bit, but isn't that... No, really, you don't know who these people are. They're just a face.
There's definitely an element of danger. I mean, the FBI does say that the internet's #1 way that traffickers approach young girls. Yeah. So I do think people need to be careful. It can be used responsibly, but I mean, there's definitely probably an element of danger.
And there's a lot more attention focused on those stories of being catfished. you know, when people aren't actually who they say they are. Or older people being attracted to minors, there's definitely, those get more focus than of the people just meeting online. So that's also another element of it, is that those are getting more focused than of the people that are having
It also
successful
seems
relationships.
like it's getting broken down to like a science, where it used to be sort of a visceral reaction, like I'm attracted to somebody, I want to date them. Now with sites like eHarmony and stuff like that, you have this complete profiles where they're trying to match you on interests and stuff like that. So it seems like it's getting taken to another level like that as well.
Yes, and it is because of these online dating sites, and we're just moving more towards that. We used to write letters to each other, and now we Facebook inbox people, so it's just changing with the times.
And Sam, you're a comedian, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you should probably use catfishing in your next stand-up act, you know?
That would be creepy. Yeah, I started doing stand-up when I was about 15. I started writing jokes when I was 15. I didn't really get on stage until I was 16, and I don't think I had anything interesting to say until I was like 18. But growing up around these people, and, you know, being like a 19-year-old, most of your friends are now in their 30s, it was kind of weird, but you get this weird, you're around a weird group of people. I mean, their motivations are strange, they're very diverse, there's all different sorts of people, and I always thought that the people themselves were more interesting than the things that they actually had to say. You had people from just all these different backgrounds. I have a friend now, he's a plumber. There's people, I have another friend, he's like in his 70s, he's doing stand-up. Some people try to make a living doing it, some people just do it because they don't know what else to do.
I really like Google because to me it's like that friend that's like, yeah, I know what you mean, man. Do you guys know that in Hawaii they just call it punch?
I can't really foresee anything specific, like in my future. I don't really know what is going to happen. I think it's like a foolish thing to pursue, and it's very lonely, and also not very profitable or easy to do.
The money. That's why I got into stand-up comedy, was all of the money. I don't know, there's just something about taking people away from their everyday life and letting them laugh for an hour or an hour and 15 minutes.
The first one is I did a comedy show one night, and after my set I went to the bar to get a drink. This girl was in my way, and I go, hey, let me scooch past you right quick. She goes, scooch, what does that mean? I go, well, you don't know. Well, when the Jews were in hiding and they'd hear the Nazis coming, the leader of the hidden Jews would go, scooch, and they'd all get real tight and quiet.
My goal isn't famous. Like, my goal is not to be famous. My goal is to be a working comedian. And if I get the inlet to become popular in some way outside of the stand-up realm, that's fine, but my whole goal is to just be a stand-up comedian and be one of the best if I can over the years.
2 minutes later, I heard her telling her friend what scooch meant. Proudest moment of my life.
Go up to 24th and Classen in Oklahoma City. What do you find there? There's a big giant milk bottle right there. That's where we put our pictures of missing fat kids.
Since I kind of got hit with cancer 14 years ago, and some of my physical abilities are starting to lessen and get weakened. This is about all I got left really going is mental abilities.
A fat kid missing. That's like a win-win for a fat kid, you know? All his life on the schoolyard games, he could only play seek.
So mentally, it's a good challenge. That's the fun. If you see if you can make people laugh. See if you can take an assignment.
I mean, once a comedian gets on stage, they have no intention of ever getting off of it. And that's just something that clicks. And even though it's not cost feasible, even though it's not time manageable, even though you lose friendships, relationships, everything, there's no part of us that wants to quit. It's the only thing that makes sense, is to get up and tell jokes to strangers.
Thank you, guys.
The reasons that drive somebody to go on stage and talk to strangers it's not necessarily a sense of narcissism, although I do think like a degree of narcissism is necessary to do it. I mean, there's healthy narcissism. Everybody has to be somewhat narcissistic. But like Stan was saying in the package, he just needs something to do to keep his mind stable. And I'm not saying he does have cancer, but he's a lot more than that. These are all very broad people. There's a large spectrum to them. They do all sorts of different things, and the motivations are very diverse.
It seems like it'd be kind of like a hard career. Do any of them ever, want to like give up or anything?
All the time, absolutely. I have a friend of mine who's saying, I'm gonna quit doing stand-up. And then we just go to the open mic, and then we just keep doing it. Like, there's no end to it, because it's just, after a while, it just becomes part of who you are. That's the thing that you do, and then you talk to people, and they single you out as like, oh, you're that guy who does stand-up, and that's how people that's what resonates with them, with who you are. It's different for everybody. There's a sense of catharsis for some people, and then there's a rush to get out. I mean, public speaking is one of the biggest fears for people, and in a weird way, you kind of get off on it, where it's like, oh, I gotta go talk to these people, I'm terrified, and then you're done doing it, and there's just this weird sort of, it's like a cold sweat that comes over you. It's like, it's over with.
Yeah.
I want to have that rush again,
Well, it's interesting that you kind of did your story on that topic. I also did my story a little, they're in the entertainment industry. I did mine on Persian rappers. They're actually cousins, Nima and Arash, and they came here from Iran when they were younger. So, they coming to a new country, things are definitely hard, and basically what they want to do is just spread, diversity through their music, and they want to integrate, different cultures and sounds to, the rap music. So they're definitely trying to change this industry.
I've been shouting for a minute, counting every single second, was doubted by every person and learning from every lesson.
I came to America when I was 10 years old for better education and better life, because whenever we came here in 2001, we came my whole family on my mom's side, and basically in Iran things were like busy at that time, and we were just coming here for more opportunities, and I think that's what America is all about, opportunities. What really interested me about this whole field of media and like rap music and film is like around 2003. That's when I really started listening to rap music, and I got exposed to all the 50 Cent and all that stuff, and that really inspired me. But when I actually got to recording, it was about 2006, and basically me and my cousin, which is my partner in our group, we were listening to rap songs, and we're just like, talking about like how cool would it be to have like Iranian rappers like in the American mainstream. And then next thing you know, we started just recording songs, and people, were feeling it. So we just, it was like our dream,
Took the word right and we took the word ride, and you combination of those, you end up with the riders. And that's really what we do, is we go, we live life, we experience it, we see things, we see a lot of things that people choose to ignore, and it's our job to kind of expose that. Working with family in this music game, it's definitely a good experience, because I know at the end of the day, we're gonna be there for each other no matter what. So with me and Nima, it's just a stronger connection, in my opinion, than it would be if it was just someone that we met and we just decided to make music together, because we understand each other's childhood and we know what we're doing. That's really what makes us a lot stronger.
I just really want to impact people, and the reason that I rap is because I think people, they always look at me as like I'm different, and I am different. And I'm always trying to really expand and to really tell them my story, because I'm different. And then the form of expression that I choose is like, music and making films, because I feel like these are the two mediums that you could really reach people and impact people, on a global scale.
Well, both Nima and Arash are working on solo projects, different making different beats and also rapping as well. And then they're also working on a new album right now to come out. So they're very, very busy, but you know, their dedication definitely shows their passion.
Has he had a good experience being Persian and in Oklahoma, or is that a negative one?
I think when I talked to him, he said, you know, at first as a kid it was hard because, you know, he was different. He couldn't, you know, speak the language as well. So he definitely, you know, had a hard time a little bit. He used that inspiration for his music as well. But, you know, I think now that they're older, I mean, they can speak English very well, but I think it's really what drives them, you know, with their music. So it's a very inspiring story.
So did you like the music? Are you going to listen to it sometime?
Yeah, they had a really good view. In fact, the song that I had in my story, it's so catchy, and I like kept listening to it, and the beat was really good. They're very, very talented.
I've been shouting for a minute, counting every single second. Was doubted by every person and learning from every lesson. They're scared to see me stepping as I'm constantly progressing, as they feeling my aggression in these verses I've been repping. I'm slick, but I'm never slipping. I'm sick when I get to thinking of these thoughts that I've kept bottled up. It's time for me to mention, put the keys in the ignition, clear the road, I'm on a mission. To the top is where I'm headed, make my interest no admission. Yeah, I'm going local to global, but it's more global than local. I show my people the way, at the end of the day I'm keeping them hopeful. They got my confidence mixed up with cocky and a little bit boastful. I'll show you what it's like to just grab the mic and go lyrically postal. I may be new to you, but this year's nothing new to me. I pursued hip-hop at its best, and now they pursuing me. Better get used to me, I ain't going nowhere, you best believe it. Cause in every move I ever made, I showed virtues of a leader. This is why we going hard, this is why we don't sleep. It's time that we show them all, it's time to let the world see. We gon' make it after all, it's my turn, homie, pass the ball. Let's get this money and count it all, to live the future we always saw. This is why we going hard, this is why we don't sleep. It's time that we show them all, it's time to let the world see.
Been waiting for a chance, been looking for an opportunity. Finally heard the right beat that influenced me to write this track. Lyrics full of energy, you feeling me? I'm their biggest nemesis, and mixes I'm their enemy. Music is my therapy, lyrics are the recipe. Chopping up beats in the kitchen, outcome is a legacy. People underestimate, so I gotta prove a point. Gotta make my family proud, wouldn't want to disappoint. If you like it, you can join me in this journey. If you hate me, go ahead, you won't hurt me. Over exaggerate only cause you underestimate. Get up early in the morning, got another hit to make. Yeah, I'm feeling good today, yeah, I wanna celebrate. Yeah, I want everybody to listen and participate. We be so progressive, but these boys be looking in a lace. With music we make history, styles you cannot imitate.
This is why we going hard, this is why we don't sleep. It's time that we show them all, it's time to let the world see. We gon' make it after all, it's my turn, homie, pass the ball. Let's get this money and count it all, to live the future we always saw. This is why we going hard, this is why we don't sleep. It's time that we show them all, it's time to let the world see.
Well, guys, we're done. You guys did an amazing job, had some amazing stories, but I know you're all busy and you need to get back to the stories. So we'll see you later. And all you guys watching, thanks for watching Roots TV.